But turns out Steve Harvey is sending he's sending shots your way.
Steve Harvey was hating on me big time.
Okay.
They could be a goofball. See, there's room in comedy for goofballs.
Right.
Like, we don't need everybody talking about the same stuff I be talking about.
That's what I'm saying, but I mean for you specifically.
Oh, for me specifically.
For you specifically, people follow you in that sort of vein where, yes, you're entertaining, yes, you're comedic, but also, as I mentioned earlier, you live by a specific code that is infallible to even get into your ego.
Imagine America's favorite game show host, Steve Harvey. Exposed as a joke thief who allegedly stabbed his comedian brothers in the back to build his empire. Because right now, that's exactly how a growing wave of black comics is framing him in public. He is the smiling family feud ringmaster, an inspirational TV uncle. But behind the scenes, veteran comedians say there is a much darker story about stolen material, copied concepts, and ruthless career moves that left friendships shattered. And with Cat Williams lighting the match in a viral interview, old accusations that were once brushed off as jealousy are now resurfacing with receipts, timelines, and witnesses who say they were there when it all went down.
If there is a God side and the other side, if there are moral things and things that are immoral, if there is this side or that side, it can't be left up to thought process. I'm an enforcer on this side.
Because this is not just one angry comedian sounding off. This is Cat Williams, Mark Curry, Godfrey, Ed Lovery, and others all pointing in the same direction and telling versions of the same story. They claim Steve did not just borrow a tag or punchline here and there, but allegedly lifted entire jokes, Halloween routines, and even the blueprint for a sitcom that helped cement his name as a TV star. The more these comics talk on podcasts, interviews, and on tours, the more Steve's carefully polished image as a smart, God-fearing success story starts to look like it may have been built at least in part in other people's creativity.
Well, it looks like Harvey has found himself in some trouble again.
At the center of the storm is Mark Curry, the comedian who originally starred in the 90s sitcom Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Playing a former NBA player turned high school teacher in a lighthearted urban school setting, years later, Steve Harvey rolled out The Steve Harvey Show, where he just happened to be a former musician turned high school teacher in a similar environment. And now Cat Williams is openly accusing Steve of watching Curry's formula and repackaging it as his own. Williams says this was not coincidence but a calculated move, claiming Steve stole everything Mark Curry had, while Hollywood rewarded Harvey with his own sitcom and never gave Curry the same level of backing. Curry himself has long insisted the similarities were not flattering, they were infuriating. He says the copying did not stop at the sitcom premise. In multiple interviews, he has accused Steve of straight-up taking his stand-up bits, singling out a Halloween routine that Curry claims Steve performed almost beat for beat on his daytime talk show and later on family-friendly variety TV. According to Curry, these were not generic shared topics any comic might touch on. There were specific stories and angles drawn from his own life, making it easy for him to recognize his fingerprints all over Steve's material when friends called and said, "He's doing your jokes on TV."
You're saying his business ethics are like really solid, like he's treating you guys like
he treats us like golden. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
We're gold.
Cat Williams has taken those long simmering complaints and
Cat Williams has taken those long simmering complaints and blasted them into the mainstream, calling Steve Harvey out by name on Shannon Sharp's Club Shay podcast and accusing him of being both a joke thief and a Hollywood Parisian who could never quite break into true movie star territory. Williams mocks the idea that Harvey was ever a serious contender in film, suggesting that Hollywood did not exactly line up to cast a country bumpkin-style character actor in leading roles while scripts poured in for more versatile performers. For viewers, that kind of brutal honesty from Williams hits differently because he is not speaking in vague terms. He ties Harvey's failure to conquer movies directly to the idea that Steve allegedly built his TV empire by copying a more original, less protected comedian. And while Mark Curry tells TMZ that he is not losing sleep over old bits, he also makes it clear he has not forgotten what he says happened. He jokes that Steve can keep the stolen material because his own pen is still moving. But underneath the bravado is a very real resentment that someone richer, more powerful, and more connected allegedly took jokes born from his experiences and flipped them into syndicated television. Money. At the same time, Curry is back in motion, touring with Cat Williams on the Dark Matter Tour, where ticket prices are surging and crowds are treating this brewing comedy civil war like must-see cultural theater.
God, in 2005 to 2008, right in there, Cat, we were looking at Cat like, wow.
He's so good.
What makes all of this so explosive is how it clashes with Steve Harvey's favorite narrative about himself, a man who climbed from homelessness and hardship to success by grinding harder than everyone else and ignoring haters. On social media and during tapings of Family Feud, he preaches about staying focused, quoting scripture about God preparing a table in the presence of enemies and telling audiences, "You never have to answer critics if you are truly winning." Yet those motivational monologues now play back very differently when set against claims that he quietly crushed smaller comics behind the scenes, allegedly took bits from people who did not have his network leverage, and then wrapped it all in a sermon about faith and hustle.
When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, and nobody likes them.
The accusations do not
stop with Curry either, because once people began revisiting old clips and interviews, another ghost reappeared in the Harvey story, Bernie Mac. Longtime fans remember whispers that Bernie and Steve did not get along during the original Kings of Comedy era, with talk of tensions over billing, materials, and who truly deserved to close the show. Now, resurfaced stories point to rumors that Steve not only clashed with Bernie on tour, but allegedly tried to undercut him for his Ocean's 11 role by approaching producers behind Bernie's back and offering to do it for less. That claim becomes even heavier when people like radio legend Ed Lover say Bernie himself supposedly told them Steve hated on him. And when Bernie's own daughter praises Cat Williams for finally saying publicly what many insiders only whispered. From their perspective, this is not just about one stolen joke. It is about a pattern of behavior where Steve allegedly positioned himself as the more acceptable, network-safe choice, while quietly blocking or copying men he could not out-funny on stage. For fans who grew up loving Bernie Mac's raw honesty and seeing him as the true king, the idea that he was fighting sabotage from inside his own circle turns this into a story about loyalty, legacy, and what people will allegedly do to be the last man standing in Hollywood.
I think that was it for me. I think because I was young, I was still trying to figure out who I was and what do I like and what don't I like.
And hovering over all of this is the sense that Steve Harvey has been shielded for years by powerful industry relationships, ownership deals, and his carefully curated brand as a wholesome family entertainer. Sources claim that for a long time, it was easier for networks and studios to ignore the complaints of comics like Mark Curry or Cat Williams than to jeopardize a proven daytime host who could deliver ratings, advertiser cash, and safe laughs for middle America. But now, as podcasts, social media, and viral clips rip the gatekeeping away, leaked videos and side-by-side routines are being shared in real time, and fans are starting to ask the question, Hollywood avoided. If these theft claims are just the beginning, what else has been buried to keep Steve Harvey untouchable? Because once you step past the smile in the suits and begin lining up the sitcom parallels, resurfaced bits, old feuds, and behind-the-scenes stories, it starts to look less like random beef and more like a long trail of unresolved accusations, finally converging at once. And this is only where the story begins. Because the deeper you dig into Mark Curry's Halloween material, the hanging with Mr. Cooper parallels, and Bernie Mac's unfinished business, the more it feels like the real scandal around Steve Harvey's empire is just getting ready to explode.
All lies will be exposed, that's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
Now the focus shifts to Bernie Mac, because this is where the pattern insiders talk about starts to feel less like coincidence and more like a habit of trying to clear the field. Veteran radio voice Ed Lover says Bernie personally told him that when he landed his role in Ocean's 11, Steve allegedly went behind the scenes to offer himself for the same part, reportedly saying he would do it for less money. Two people close to Bernie that did not look like friendly competition. It looked like a powerful colleague trying to slide into a career moment that had already been earned. Those whispers line up with older reports that Bernie had already accused Steve of trying to undercut him on the movie. Telling a magazine, he believed Harvey contacted producers after he was cast. That story has been around for years. But now that Cat Williams is talking openly about why he refused to step into a post-Bernie Kings of Comedy lineup, it is being reread as part of a larger motive, not just an isolated rumor. In that telling, this was less about two strong personalities bumping heads and more about one man allegedly unable to accept that the crowd might love someone else more. Even Bernie's family has stepped into the conversation in a carefully chosen way. His daughter has publicly praised Cat for the way he spoke about her father, and Harvey for calling out the people who allegedly tried to slight him while he was here. saying it felt honest compared to others who only celebrate Bernie now that he is gone. When the person who knew the man offstage co-signs the idea that there were snakes in the grass, it adds emotional weight to what might otherwise be dismissed as industry gossip.
When it comes to dating, Lori ain't got a damn thing. I got.
Then there is the strange fracture of the Kings of Comedy brand itself. On paper, that combination of Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hughley could have spawned multiple tours, sequels, and spin-offs. Instead, there was tension, one film, and a lingering sense that something important broke. Cedric has hinted that the clash between Bernie and Steve was a big reason he never signed on for another round, while Kat says he turned down a chance to join because he refused to benefit from what he saw as disrespect to Bernie's legacy. Critics point out that this does not look like simple ego. The way the story is now being retold, it looks more like certain legacies were allowed to fade while others were aggressively protected, rumor after rumor describing a behind-the-scenes game of musical chairs where only one king could sit down at the end. For viewers who watched that tour thinking they were seeing four brothers rise together, the idea that there was a quiet campaign to control who got what deals and which roles hits differently.
Now, I'm a Christian, but I ain't that good a Christian.
When we zoom out from the stage drama and look at Steve Harvey's off-camera behavior, another thread emerges: control. A leaked memo to his talk show staff, verified by multiple outlets, shows Harvey laying down strict rules, telling employees not to approach him in hallways, in the makeup chair, or in his dressing room without an appointment. He later confirmed sending the message and said it was about guarding his time and personal space, though he admitted he might have handled it differently. To fans, that memo read like a line in the sand. To some insiders, it sounded like the same energy they say he brought to fellow comics. Do not approach me at work becomes, in their stories, do not question me in the industry. Whether that means ignoring accusations or flattening anyone who challenges his narrative. When you put that side by side with his public sermons about staying humble and blessing others, the contrast feeds the perception of a split between the stage persona and the man calling the shots behind closed doors.
So yeah, Marjorie, I guess she did what she felt as though she had to do. I think she sold her soul to the devil.
Comedian Gary Owen's experience on Harvey's daytime show adds another uncomfortable piece. Owen says he was brought in as the announcer and potential sidekick, but ended up tucked away backstage doing voice work for wages he describes as union minimum while shooting multiple episodes a day. He later compared those checks to another game show gig and said a few days on that other set paid several times what 2 weeks on Harvey's operation did, making it impossible for him to keep accepting the role. Owen has been clear that he blames the production machine more than Harvey personally, but fans heard the subtext: a show with A-list guests and influencer talent, yet a working comic treated like a replaceable background voice. That echoes what other comedians quietly suggest, that proximity to Steve did not always mean shared opportunity, especially if you were not the one holding the reins. When you stack this next to the allegations from Mark Curry about lifted routines and Bernie Mac's circle about undercut deals, it feeds a narrative of a star who protects his own bag first and lets everyone else fend for themselves. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, a kind of counter-empire is forming. Cat Williams, Mark Curry, and voices like Ed Lover are not just talking separately, they are crossing paths on tours, podcasts, and viral clips. And their stories are starting to align in ways that make Hollywood's old silence feel unsustainable.
Uptick, a spike in business.
When you rock the internet, I mean, he burned down the forest. Sometimes you got to burn down the forest so that the new...
Insiders whisper that this loose alliance is turning what once looked like random grudges into a coordinated reckoning, with audiences buying tickets not just for laughs but to witness a live challenge to a long-protected narrative. Reports from the Dark Matter tour highlight how this energy is translating into real momentum. Ticket prices are climbing from modest starting levels into the hundreds of dollars in city after city, and early dates have already sold out, suggesting that fans are willing to pay to support the people they now see as truth-tellers against the machine. For the first time, the comics accusing Steve Harvey of envy-driven borrowing are the ones getting the standing ovations and the digital spotlight, while his camp mostly stays quiet or responds with brief dismissals.
Turn it down.
And you're
yes,
big in
ma'am.
prison.
I've never been to prison.
You have
19 felonies,
times.
no convictions.
Yeah,
Knock it off. Prison and jail aren't the same. No.
Harvey, for his part, has publicly brushed off some of this with a mix of denial and spiritual framing. He has flatly rejected Mark Curry's joke theft claims, telling him to grow up and insisting he has never stolen material in decades on stage. And he has posted messages about not needing to respond to haters because his success speaks for itself. To supporters, that is a man refusing to dignify noise. To critics, it looks like carefully chosen silence from someone who knows the more he talks, the more old footage and interviews will be dragged back into the light. As resurfaced videos stack up, from late 90s club sets to mid-2000s television bits, from archival interviews with Bernie Mac to fresh sit-downs with Ed Lover and Cat Williams, the question hanging over all of this grows heavier. How long can Steve Harvey's empire avoid a direct, detailed confrontation with these stories? Studios and networks have not rushed to distance themselves, but the same social media ecosystem that once amplified his wholesome game show image is now circulating side-by-side comparisons and receipts at a speed old-school PR teams cannot fully contain. So where does that leave us, and where does it leave Steve Harvey? As these accusations mount and the aura of protection around him reportedly starts to thin, we are watching a career built on laughs and life lessons teeter on the edge of a much harsher spotlight, one that does not cut away when the cameras stop rolling. If even half of what Cat Williams, Mark Curry, and the people who loved Bernie Mac are saying is true, does that crack in Steve's carefully crafted image turn into the moment everything shatters? Or will he somehow spin this into just another testimony about overcoming haters while the industry quietly moves on? Let us know what you think in the comments, because this story is far from over and the next bombshell could drop at any time. Until then, we will be watching, we will be listening, and we will see you in the